remember that they're changing my voice. I'm not gay. So what is going on is very, very sick, obviously. If you look at it in terms of the spirits that are involved, it's like the spirit of white supremacy, Jewish supremacy, LGBT supremacy, a sort of military club for officers behind the scenes. It's also the English royals, those kinds of people, social clubs, corporate ties, people who have crests and some kind of fancy symbols, especially. To their extreme disgrace, the whole world has a very low opinion of them, and for a good reason. So they worship Cronus. Right? We see that in Leviticus 26, where God is saying that the Jews are worshiping Cronus, and if they keep it up, they're going to go to hell, and the covenant is going to be broken, etc. So Leviticus is the third book in the Bible. It goes Genesis, Exodus, then Leviticus. And later on we see in Micah and Isaiah and Jeremiah, Hosea, and on and on and on, that they keep doing the wrong things, so God makes good on his promise. He says if you keep dishonoring the covenant, you're going to lose everything. And we see in the New Testament, Christ as a character in the story says that the kingdom of heaven is taken away from him. One thing that gives it away is that they're changing the sound of my voice, trying to make it so I sound like a gay English person, a gay Greek society English person, like an English American. When the English do things like that, it very much disgraces them. Same with the Jews. So in the 90s or in the early 2000s, right, if you were in a school and you looked at your classmates, you would see, say you were in California, you'd see Chinese, you'd see Jews to some degree, you'd see white people, you'd see LGBT people maybe, not so much of the schools I went to. You'd see various races there. And among the least impressive of them, and I'm not saying this to be racist, because in religion you have to clarify these things. Who are the races? How do they look? What does it mean when in Leviticus it says that God is going to curse them if they keep doing the sins that they've been doing? What does it mean when the prophets keep saying that they're cursed because of what they're doing? Isaiah chapter 1, for example. Well, it has to do with the state of existence that they're in. No offense to the Jewish people. I'm even part Jewish. There's Jews in my extended family. But the least impressive of the people, among the least impressive, would be Jews. They look like maybe Harry Potter. They look like Ben Bernanke, Bibi Netanyahu. Okay, when I think of Jewish celebrities, right, Wonder Woman, right, she's not that impressive. Now, what is being said in the Bible is that they're thinking in a way that makes it so they're behaving in a way that's sinful. Okay? And so that thinking is sort of where it starts, right? The generational thinking, how they're raised, the thinking of their group, what have you. So that's how we know that they're not chosen. It's a mix between privilege, denial, fragility, guilt, generational ill-gotten gains, and their thinking. Let's look at Leviticus 27, 26, verse 27. If in spite of this you still do not listen to me, but continue to be hostile toward me, then in my anger I will be hostile toward you. And I myself will punish you for your sins 7 times over. You will eat the flesh of your sons and the flesh of your daughters. I will destroy your high places, cut down your incense altars, and pile your dead bodies, or your funeral offerings, right? Dead bodies, funeral offerings, their life offerings, how they lived and died, right? On the lifeless forms of your idols, and I will abhor you. So when we see Jewish people, do we see an example of what it says in the New Testament is a sound mind, discipline, sound judgment, mental clarity, well-being? No. We see people often have developmental disorders, and again, I am not racist. I'm part Jewish. This has to be said, and I'm very saddened that they won't rally to me and explain it themselves, because they need to hear it from other Jews. If you care about Jews and you're Jewish, you need to say these things, and you need to say these things with me. Okay. Just like black people have high blood pressure, I'm not a big fan of pointing it out, knowing that there's a bunch of racist people say something like that. Okay, but I'll say that to help you realize that I'm not racist. When we look at the people in class, we know for sure that the pinnacle of the most blessed is found in the black African patriarchal line. Mandela, Martin Luther King. Okay, things like that. But it's going to be a martial art idea because a martial artist who's more righteous than Martin Luther King, for example, it kind of comes with that because martial arts refine ideas, is beyond Martin Luther King and Mandela. And we know that right away. And the Bible is saying to look for those things. God is known and exalted by his acts of righteousness and justice, including who is being blessed. What kind of behavior? You know them by their fruits, their deeds, their behaviors, their works. We see in Revelation, people are judged by their deeds. And if you have some kind of developmental disorder and you're not very righteous and you insist that you're chosen, that is a very evil thing to do. Very evil. And if someone cares about you, they're going to say, stop doing that and give people their rightful place. Again, I am not racist. You can imagine it pisses me off because no one hates racism more than I do. I'm the most cheated person that ever lived, and a large reason that I'm a huge part of why I'm cheated is racism. And I'm mixed. Okay, so what does it mean to eat the flesh of their children? Well, there's the bread offering, where the bread is said to stand for the flesh. Okay, there's also the fact that people have been described as animals to some degree in the Bible, right? Dogs and pigs, Proverbs 11:22. Holman Christian Standard Bible, I believe it is. A beautiful woman who rejects good sense is like a gold ring in a pig's snout. Go ahead and look at the different translations. You'll see that they agree on pig. I don't like when they use the word discretion instead of sense because it confuses it. Having discretion has to do with sense, but it has certain connotations in regards to image rather than actually having sense, which I find deplorable, as that's part of the white man's system. Now, how do we know it's fair to call it the white man's system? Well, when we see people like Carlton from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, we say they're whitewashed, and white people do not complain about that for the most part. How are they then going to turn around after defining those things as white themselves and say, why do you say it's white? Well, why do you think? Even the word white even has the word why in it. Okay, now why is because it's the existing communication. We know what's being referred to, and we don't want to confuse things. The word white is a play on words for white set, and set is a deity of confusion. And confusion-based dating is rape by deception. It's based on false statements and false actions, and falsehood and confusion. Micah 6:7. Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams? With 10,000 rivers of olive oil? Shall I offer my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He refers to his child as the fruit of his body. And spiritually speaking, he refers to the child who embodies his spirit. Okay, the spirit of his child, rather. The spirit of his child that embodies the spirit of his being, the body of him, if you will, as the fruit of his body. So when we look at Proverbs 11:22, we can also interpret it as a beautiful woman who rejects good sense is like a gold ring in the spirit of a disgusting person's image. Okay, so what it refers to is the fact that her spirit, her character, the principles she lives by, her prevailing tendency, her dominant principles, the principles she lives by, and the accompanying spirit are ugly. They're like a pig. Her spirit's like a pig. And her physical attraction, right, her physical beauty comes from somewhere else. It's gold meant for people who are actually noble, from a long line of people with noble character. So where do you get a female who is attractive and lacks good sense? She comes from a long line of evil people who take attractive women who are supposed to go to other people. That's part of why the human race is doomed at this point, because they finished it off by cheating me. I'm the only one who could turn that around, okay, by my actual deeds, right? Like the body without the spirit is dead, faith without works is dead. Okay, the human race without somebody who actually deserves attractive women, who actually deserves to lead it here on this planet in a physical body, is the human race on this planet is doomed when they do not have someone who's worthy to lead. And after my flesh dies, no one will be worthy, so people should stop reproducing. So you see how it's kind of complicated because of the language they're using. Instead of just saying it flat out, they're using things like the fruit and the gold ring and the pig snout and so on and so forth. So the pig snout. So we see in Isaiah 65 verse 4, and see again, we're connecting things that are said in a way that's confusing while they're fuming and poisoning me. And they've been doing things like that all throughout history. They didn't just start fuming people, in the last 50 years or so. They've been doing that for hundreds and hundreds of years. That's what witches are, right? They have these kind of cauldrons, these kettles. Fumes are produced. They deal in poisons and fumes. The word fume is a plain word for F-U-M-E. And position is a plain word for poisoning. And place, P-lace. So Isaiah 64:5, who sit among the graves and spend their nights keeping secret vigil, who eat the flesh of pigs, and whose pots hold broth of impure meat. So in the second last chapter of Isaiah there, it's saying that these people are evil, Jew and Gentile alike. People don't obey God, they're me. And their spirits are like a pig. So they're eating the fruit of being like a pig, like a slimy, evil, low-down beast. And they're keeping secret vigil. They're doing things behind the scenes like a witch. Think of a witch and compare a witch to a pig. But a witch isn't necessarily ugly. In popular culture, witches do magic spells to make themselves look attractive. And the word spill is a play on words for spilling, like spilling some milk or spilling some semen, where we see that in Greco-Roman mythology, where Hephaestus is said to have raped Athena, but she managed to spill his semen on the earth instead of inside of her, which has implications on generational spirits. So what it's saying is that a beautiful female who rejects good sense should run, not walk, to obey God through me, because without Christ casting out the pig in her soul, her spirit, and replacing with his spirit, the spirit from God, that she's a demon. And you see these arrogant people who are English, rich people, rich white people, rich Jews, rich Americans, rich token minorities, rich LGBT people. They want their spirit in attractive women instead. And when she doesn't have the sense to obey God through me, instead follows them, she's an idolater. She's prostituting herself to an idea that is not universal, pinpoint, and moral precision. And you should know that I'm right beyond a reasonable doubt. You get some kind of gay guy saying, hey, how do you know that? Well, how do I know? Obviously, people should be speaking plainly. How do I know that? I know that because that person's gay. Think about what gay people do. Think about what privileged white people do and why. Think about what privileged Jews do. Think about what Jews who are just following the privileged crowd do. Think about what Jews who pretend to be heroes who aren't do. I know that because it's like one of the most obvious things in human history.